Welcome back to Northern Tales. In part two of our story, when the moon stopped smiling, Aisha ran away from an abusive situation and found a new home and family as a house help in Abuja. Through the kindness of her madam, she got admission into School of Nursing, Gwagwalada. She was quick to find out that nursing school was no walk in the park. The lectures were long, the practicals were intense, the anatomy charts looked like alien maps, and the hostel water often ran dry. Aisha barely had time to breathe between classes, assignments, and night prep. Some days she returned to her room too tired to eat. On others, the shadow of her past crept in, voices that whispered, "You're just a house help. You don't belong here." But she pushed on. She started forming a small study group. She helped others understand concepts, and soon, even the boldest girls in class began asking, "Aisha, please can you explain this part again? Can we revise together?" And she did, patiently, quietly, and kindly. But just as her light began to rise, Haruna returns, her husband. It was a Friday. She had just come out of the hostel gate when she saw him. Haruna. He looked older, broader, the same dark stare, standing by the fence like a man who had found his missing wallet. She froze, her throat closed. He smiled that cold, smug smile that used to make her stomach twitch. "So you ran to Abuja. You think I won't find you. You are still my wife. I never divorced you. After I have spent so much money to marry you, you think you can just run away." For a moment, she froze. The air around her felt heavy, like the world had stopped breathing. Then instinct took over. She ran. Her shoes slapped against the pavement. Her heart was pounding so hard she could hear it in her ears. The street spun past in a blur of dust and noise, shouting, honking, the faint call of a hawker in the distance. She didn't look back. She couldn't. By the time she reached the main road, her chest was on fire. Her hands trembled so violently, she almost dropped her phone. It took 3 tries before the screen unlocked. She called only one person, Mrs. Okoye, her madam. Mrs. Okoye arrived at the school before sunset, her driver barely parking before she jumped out. She didn't even wait for the principal's greeting. She went straight to the dormitory. When she opened the door to Aisha's small room, she froze. The girl sat curled up on her narrow bed, still in her uniform, knees to her chest, shaking uncontrollably. Tears streaked her face. "Aisha," Mrs. Okoye said softly, stepping closer. "My dear, what happened?" Aisha's head jerked up the moment she saw her. She broke down completely. "Please, ma, please don't let him take me. I can't go back there. I can't." Her voice cracked as she clutched Mrs. Okoye's hand, trembling. Mrs. Okoye sat beside her, pulling the girl gently into her arms. "No one will take you anywhere. Do you hear me? You're safe here. Just breathe." Aisha sobbed against her shoulder. "He said he found him. He was waiting near the gate. I ran. I thought I was free, ma. I thought it was over." Mrs. Okoye's jaws tightened. "Who found you?" "Haruna." The name came out like poison. "He said I'm still his wife, that he paid for me, that I belong to him." Mrs. Okoye took a long breath and stood. "Not anymore, Aisha. You belong to no one. Let's settle this once and for all." Outside, in front of the school office, Haruna stood with 2 men, anger in his eyes and dust on his clothes. When Mrs. Okoye approached, the principal joined her quietly, and an interpreter was called. "Tell him," Mrs. Okoye said firmly, "that the girl is under the protection of this school and the state. He cannot simply come here to drag her away." The interpreter relayed her words. Saruna's voice rose immediately. "She is my wife," he barked in Hausa, gesturing widely. I spent money to marry her. Goats, fabric, everything. She ran away like a thief. No one divorced her. Not me. Not the imam. She must come home. Mrs. Okoye waited for the translation, then replied calmly, Marriage is not ownership, Mr. Haruna. She is a child, not your property. Yes, maybe she made a mistake by running away, but you can't force her to go with you. Whatever you think you paid for, it was not her freedom. Haruna's face twitched. You people think you can take her just like that? That dubious woman, Malama Hawa, was the one that deceived her. But Allah exposed her. I went to her house. She told me where she is. Ah, at that, Mrs. Okoye's heart sank. So that's how you found her, she murmured. Haruna jabbed a finger in the air. She will come back with me today, I swear it. Haruna lunged forward, trying to grab Aisha's hand. Mrs. Okoye and the principal swiftly blocked him and stood between them. Mrs. Okoye met his gaze squarely, her tone turning cold. If you take one more step, I will call the police myself. You will not touch that girl again. The interpreter hesitated, glancing between them before relaying her words. Haruna muttered something under his breath, his chest heaving. A tense silence fell. Even the students nearby had stopped whispering. She looked back at Haruna. You wanted to see power, Haruna. This is what it looks like when a woman stands for another woman. That night, Mrs. Okoye took Aisha home. The girl sat quietly in her car, her head leaning against the window, the passing streetlights reflecting off her tear-streaked face. When they reached the compound, Mrs. Okoye guided her inside, gave her a blanket, and brought a warm cup of tea. Drink, my dear, she said softly. You need to calm down. Aisha nodded but didn't touch it. Her eyes were empty, lost somewhere far away. Mrs. Okoye sighed and asked, Is there a way we can contact your father? Aisha tensed instantly. Please, ma. No, don't. Aisha, he needs to know what is happening. He won't care, Aisha kept on insisting. When I told him what Haruna did, how he beat me, he said every woman must be patient with her husband. He never came, he never asked if I was alive. Why should he care now? Mrs. Okoye sighs beside her. Because sometimes people need to be forced to face what they have ignored. Let's call him together. Mrs. Okoye called Malama Hawa. Through her, they got the number of a neighbor's son, and he took the phone to Aisha's father. Reluctantly, Aisha watched as Mrs. Okoye dialed the number. When her father's voice came through, deep and weary, Aisha froze. Assalamu alaikum, Mrs. Okoye began firmly. Good evening, sir. This is Mrs. Okoye from Abuja. Your daughter Aisha is with me. A pause, then his voice rose with surprise. Aisha, Alhamdulillah, where is she? He said in pidgin English, something he learned in his business travels. We have been looking for her, he continued. People said she ran away with another man. Aisha winced, eyes filling again. She didn't run away, Mrs. Okoye replied sharply. She escaped abuse. The man you married her to found her today. Came to the school claiming ownership. Her father hesitated. But Haruna is her husband. Yes, sir, I know, Mrs. Okoye interrupted. But she doesn't want the marriage anymore. And besides, the thing with Haruna was not a marriage, it was bondage. You need to understand that. There was silence on the other end. Then his tone softened slightly. I don't know it was that bad. She should have been patient. You know these things. Aisha suddenly stood up, tears spilling down her cheeks. Patient. Baba, he used to lock me inside for days. He beat me for not responding to him whenever he came to me. You said I should endure. How could you? Her voice cracked into sobs. Mrs. Okoye placed a hand on her shoulder, steadying her. Her father's voice faltered, guilt creeping in. Aisha, I thought it was just quarrel. I didn't know. You didn't ask, she cried. You didn't even come for me when I left. Did you look for me at all? The line went quiet. Her father stammered. Then in a quiet, shaky voice, he said, I'm sorry, Aisha. I don't know what to say. I am so sorry for everything. He kept quiet for a long time. They thought the line had died. Hello? Hello, Baba? Aisha said. I'm here, he answered. They could hear him crying softly. Don't worry, I will deal with Haruna when he comes back. Just continue with what you are doing there. And please forgive me. They could hear him sobbing on the other end, and the line went dead. When the call ended, Aisha sank back onto the couch, trembling. Mrs. Okoye pulled her close. You see, my dear, the truth has power. You're not alone anymore. Aisha closed her eyes, the first flicker of relief crossing her face. For the first time in years, she believed safety might be possible. By Monday, Mrs. Okoye drove Aisha back to school. To her surprise, she was welcomed back with open arms by both the students and tutors. Somehow, hearing her story made an impact on people. The quiet Aisha now became very popular in school. Back in her hometown, her father confronted Haruna. There was a huge row between them, but the village head settled them. Aisha's father had to pay back the dowry and also money to Haruna before he agreed to sign the divorce letter. 6 months later, Aisha received the letter. She was free. She stared at the document for a long time. Her hands trembled not from fear, but from release. Mrs. Okoye bought her a small cake that night. They didn't throw a party, they just sat on the balcony under the Abuja sky and shared a quiet slice of justice. By her second year in the nursing school, Aisha had become a name people remembered. Not because she talked the loudest, but because she moved with quiet purpose. She never competed, yet always rose. She never demanded praise, yes, always earned it. Her grades were consistently among the top in her class. She understood the theory, yes, but where she really stood out was in her clinicals. At the word, she moved like someone who had seen suffering before and survived it. She spoke gently to patients, taught young mothers how to bathe their newborn, held old women's hands during injection. She didn't just nurse wounds, she made people feel seen. At the beginning of third year, Aisha was selected to give a speech on International Nurses Day. She nearly said no, but Mrs. Okoye, standing in the doorway during one of her weekend visits, said, You are no longer hiding. That girl they beat is not the one giving this speech. This is you now. Speak. And did. She stood before faculty, students, and guests. Her white uniform crisp, her voice clear. She spoke about dignity, about compassion, about how nurses don't just carry stethoscope, they carry stories. Stories of patients they care for at their most vulnerable times. The hall went silent. When she ended, there was a pause, then applause that seemed to wrap around her like a long overdue embrace. After the speech, lecturers nodded differently when they saw her. Senior students sought her advice. She was chosen to lead her clinical rotation team. And when the new intake of students arrived, they whispered, That's Aisha. She's one of the best. She smiled softly, seemed humble, but inside something stood tall. She started volunteering at a community clinic on Saturdays, giving health talks to pregnant women, helping malnourished children, training young girls on menstrual hygiene. One day, a little girl clung to her waist and said, I want to be like you when I grow up. Aisha knelt and touched the girl's cheek. You already are, she whispered. There were still shadows in her life, memories that visited her in quiet moments, but they no longer controlled her. They were pages, not chains. She thought about her mother often, and she always wished her mother was there to see what she has become. And in her final year, as she prepared for her licensing exams, one of her tutors pulled her aside and said, There's something about you, Aisha. You have seen life. Other students look up to you. Keep up what you're doing. Keep up being yourself. And I know you will succeed in life. So, 3 years after her admission into School of Nursing, Gwagwalada, Aisha graduated with distinction. She didn't cry, she simply smiled, deeply, quietly. the kind of smile only the truly free know how to wear. After graduation, she got a job at a private maternal and child health facility in Abuja. She worked hard, quickly gaining a reputation for her gentle skill, her patience, and her uncanny ability to calm even the most agitated mother or feverish child. Then one day, her matron posted a circular. The National Maternal and Newborn Child Health Week was approaching, and they were looking for volunteers to deploy to communities to deliver immunization, nutritional support, and health education for women. The National Primary Healthcare was looking for volunteers specifically to go to hard to reach areas like her place where she's from. The staff were asked to write their preferred locations. Aisha didn't hesitate. She picked up her pen and wrote the word carefully in block letters. And in her heart, she thought about home. She hadn't stepped foot in her village since the night she escaped in silence. Now she returned in uniform, carrying a cold box of vaccine and a folder of child health cards, not as a girl, but as a nurse. The people said, "Is that not Aisha, Ali's daughter? Is that Aisha? Wallahi, it's her. She's wearing uniform. She's a nurse now. She's a health worker." She kept her head high, her heart calm, her smile small. She worked efficiently, vaccinating babies, weighing toddlers, gently encouraging shy mothers. By mid-afternoon, a small crowd had gathered near the outreach tent, not for immunization, but just to see her. And then she saw him. Ali, her father, stood by the corner, older now, thinner, grey, dusting his beard. Their eyes met. He walked slowly towards her, stopping just short. He cleared his throat. "How are you?" he asked. She answered gently, quietly, "Alhamdulillah. How are you, Baba?" "I am fine. I finally found love peace where I never expected it," continued. "Not in blood, not in my tribe, not in my religion. Just in a woman who treated me like a human being. She's the reason why I'm here today." He lowered his eyes. "I am happy you found happiness somewhere. At least you running away did not end up in disgrace. You rose from the ashes and made something of your life. I am proud of you. May Allah continue to bless you." "I mean, Baba," Aisha smiled back. Later that evening, she walked past the compound where she had once lived. Her stepmother, Rekia, was seated on a wooden bench, older, more drawn. When she saw Aisha, she stiffened, then quickly looked away. But Aisha stopped. "Assalamu alaikum," she said gently. Rekia didn't look up. "You came back." "I came to work," Aisha replied. Rekia gave a half laugh, bitter, dry. "So you became something after all." Aisha said nothing. She only watched her, the woman who once cut her hair, locked the food cupboard, sent her to the markets instead of school. And in that moment, she was not a monster. She was a woman broken before she even had the chance to heal. She saw a child who had never been loved trying to raise one, and she forgave her, not out of weakness, but because she no longer needed the weight. Rekia sat alone on her mat, recalling all the things she had said about Aisha, the lies, the beatings, the whispers to neighbors. She didn't cry, but something ached inside her. Not guilt, something older than that, a hollowness. And somewhere in the back of her mind, she wondered what her life might have been had someone loved her the way Aisha had been loved. Before Aisha left, she stood at the village square and watched the sunrise. She thought of Hafsat, her mother, and of Mrs. Nnena Okoye, the woman who picked up a broken girl from the side of life and gave her wings. She smiled to herself. That evening, she looked at the moon because the moon was smiling again, not just in the sky, but in her heart. Thank you for watching Northern Tales. Please like, share, and subscribe. See you in the next story.